some really big previews at Adepticon 2026. So let's take a look at those. We'll start with the biggest news first. The 11th edition preview taking place on Armageddon. Tons of new miniatures, new edition, new box, of course. Armageddon Blood Angels versus Orcs. They're not showing everything just yet. They did this in 10th edition. Those will all come later. Some new intercessors and new orc boys. Some new rules. So for army building, this will use your current codex and other supplements like the current Armageddon books or Armageddon books that they've announced coming out. Detachments will be changing. They're going to give over 70 new and updated detachments, so we'll have to see what those are as we get closer. Your choice of detachments will now affect your missions. Objectives are no longer circles, they are terrain footprints. Key locations, your relics, your fortifications will now actually be your objectives. That's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they put that together and how that affects and how that interacts with objective control. And do you have to be in the terrain to take it? Do you have to be within an area around the terrain? We'll find out. So terrain has also changed. The default bonus for cover will now affect hit rolls instead of saves. And units, they say, will be easier to hide than previously. We'll have to see how that works out. Affecting hit rolls is probably better, depending on what that bonus is and how that interacts with other bonuses to hit. So we'll have to see how that is, but there's not more information right now. Made some changes to combat for a cleaner fight phase. Some better flexibility when picking targets for charging. Changes to activation order. I wonder if that means we will be getting alternating activations. Technically, the game currently has that, but with charging, it doesn't really work out that way. But we'll find out how that happens. Maybe more akin to Age of Sigmar, which does it, I think, pretty well. But again, this is all speculation right now because there's no more information than what we see here. They're also going to go for fast dice rolling for dealing damage. Not sure how they're going to do that based on current rolls, but we'll see. And changes to the order of consolidation and pile-in. So some really interesting changes. Some, I think, just standard current issue Marines here in these photos. I don't think there's anything new other than the new intercessor and new orc boy. If you check this out, you can watch all the videos on their Warhammer 40,000 channel. You can also choose which side you're picking. It's interesting they're doing Blood Angels because the previous 2-3 editions have all been Ultramarines. Now, Blood Angels do have a few more chapter-specific units than Ultramarines do, but I would suspect that this box will still be all generic Space Marines, just painted up for display or promotion as Blood Angels. They do mention that Blood Angels have a long history of defending Armageddon, and they're back with a strike force from the Salamanders, Ultramarines, Space Wolves, and a dozen more. So it will be interesting to see if there are some things in this box that are more slated towards other chapters, or if it's all going to be mostly Blood Angels focused in terms of their loadout. It will also be interesting to see if they have Blood Angels specific units in this box. My guess would be no, because that makes it more generally available, but I don't know. But more information will be coming out on these in the coming weeks. So certainly something to look forward to. Probably May for the full reveal of the army box is my guess. Could happen in April, but my guess would be May. And then launch probably late June or July, somewhere in that time frame. Again, a rough estimate. So on to the next reveal. Wazdaka Gutsmack battles Commissioner Yarrick for the fate of Armageddon. So a new model for Wazdaka Gutsmack. Very cool looking model, Gatling gun on the bike. It's a very dynamic looking model. This will be interesting to see in person because in the photo, I kind of wonder how stable this whole connection is. But it looks like it will be pretty good. It looks like it should be relatively good in terms of stability, but a very cool looking model here. Nice claw. And then he's actually holding onto the bike, so really cool looking. A couple different angles here, which is nice. A little grot to assist him with, looks like ignition of his engine there. And then we also have Commissioner Yarrick, which has been announced previously. Big Terminator looking bolter here. Gigantic orc claw. 2 bionic eyes, I believe. Looks like 2 bionic eyes. Very cool. A back view here, you get some cabling and stuff, but pretty standard human with the gigantic claw there. There's also Commissioner Graves in a new vehicle, which can be built like this, or as we'll see in a moment, as a more generic option. Looks pretty cool. Looks kind of like they took a truck and just put some extra plates on it. I do like the front with the almost dozer blade in the front there. And the little eagle here, that's cool. Gun turret there, looks pretty good. Treads and tires. Another view for Commissioner Graves. So this model will come with an option to build Commissioner Graves on foot, as well as on the tank. So that is interesting, because now I'm wondering if this will be a unique kit, where the generic version is its own kit, and Commissioner Graves is a separate kit, or if this will just be an option for the standard kit, which I don't think would be the case, as you would get a couple extra guys in there and then the Commissioner. But it is nice that you can build her on foot as well. There's also Inquisitor Croyle, a very conquistador looking monster hunter here, riding some multi-limbed alien monstrosity, armed with a Tox rifle with 2 different heads. You have your conquistador style helmet and then unhelmeted version. More very nice 2 different helmets for the mount as well, but I believe the positioning is the same regardless. Lots of little extra details. Very cool. There's also in Intransia Frey, Dogmata Superior, which is another Sisters mech suit. This one's more of a throne than a piloted suit. Nice Imperial Cherub here. Lots of little details, some cool looking guns on the sides there. And then of course you have your Intransia Frey. Also comes with a helmeted option, which I have to say I think looks a lot better. But again, my preference is for helmets, so obviously you have the choice there on whichever ones you prefer. And then we have the generic version of the truck. This one has a few extra plates, which I suspect makes this a separate kit from the character version, as opposed to a combined kit where you have the alternate build. But I could be wrong on that. Maybe this said and I just didn't catch it. But interesting little extra vehicle for your guard. Couple different views here. Can get some guys in the back. Person not manning the turret there. Very nice. Some extra space in the treads here. At least in the tanks, those are normally covered, but this being more light vehicle works pretty well. There's also the Hippogriff AFV, armored fighting vehicle. It looks pretty good too. Looks like a mini, size down from the tank. So it'll be interesting with adding these options if they're going to change how the points are versus tanks and not tanks. Looks like you get several options here for your turret as well. You have your large cannon with little bolter here. And then you have a rapid fire and small bolter, last gun, I believe, and flamer. And then also Melta or larger flamer and smaller flamer, something along those lines. There are the Armageddon, the Return of Yarrick books, which will include the Return of Yarrick, the Armored Gauntlet for the guard, and then a book for the detachments. The Astra Militarum, Adeptus Sororitas, Deathwatch, and Orcs will each get a battalion box. So the Astra Militarum battalion box will include 2 Hippogriff AFVs, 1 Centaur RSV, a Rogel Dorn, and 10 Cadian shock troops. First place, you'll be able to get the Hippogriff and Centaur vehicles. Sisters box comes with 3 Paragon warsuits, a Palatine, 10 Sisters Noviate, and 10 Sisters Repentio. A nice expansion to any Sisters army, or a nice way to start an army. That will be true for these other 2 as well. So the Deathwatch box also looks very good. This comes with 2 5-man kill teams, for a total of 10 Death Watch Marines and a Corvus Blackstar Flyer, which looks very cool. I don't think I've actually really looked at their flyer before, and that looks great. Like the missiles, the guns, the gigantic inquisitorial eye here on the doors. That's really cool. There's also an Orcs battalion coming out. This includes 6 Def Comptas, a Def Killa War Trike, and a Rucka Truck Squig Buggy. So a very vehicle-heavy box here. These look relatively new, although I'm not as familiar with the Orc kits as others are, so I don't know if these are as new as they may look, but they look like a more recent kit. So it's, I would guess, unlikely that these will be updated in the next edition, though that could be completely wrong. That's just a guess on my part. That is everything for the next set of Armageddon books with Commissioner Yarrick. So we'll go next to Weta Workshop's Mephiston. And again, any of the videos you should be able to see on the Warhammer 40,000 YouTube page. I won't play them here, but this is one of the large Joy Toy size Mephistons. They also have a helmet bust for a Mark 10 Tacticus helmet, if you are interested in those. This is a full-size wearable helmet. I should have realized I made this. That's pretty cool. If you are interested in that, that will be available as well. There's also a new trailer for a animation of Aeronautica Imperialis. Some stills here. Looks like it will involve Eldar and the Imperium, of course. On to the reveals for Horus Heresy. Ogryns, big guns, and a Spartan in Horus Heresy. The Spartan Prometheus assault tank, which looks very cool. This is an armored squad vehicle, so it's going to carry power or Terminator armor warriors with some guns as well, as you can see on the sponsons here and there on the front. Looks like you have a last cannon option as well, and the ability to open the transport. There's also the Karanite Ogryn section, which has a few different options. I will say with the mask up, this reminds me of something, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So let me know in the comments down below what this might remind you of, or maybe it's just me. This looks really cool though, with the helmet down. This looks pretty cool. Gigantic guy. Maybe it's something from BioShock. This looks really nice. I really like it with the helmet down. And again, with the helmet up, just something about the bodysuit seems kind of strange to me. But with the helmet down, looks really cool. Like the blade claw here, you have this sort of ore grinder fist. Couple different options. Single blade, spikes, different ore grinder fist, and a grabby claw here. And then the spiked claw and a grabby claw. So some nice options for those if that's what you're interested in. There's also a rapier fire support battery for the Solar Auxilla with some foot units, as well as the little batteries themselves with a variety of guns, which do look really cool. There's also the direct fire batteries, which have non-mortar guns on them, which also look pretty cool. A little odd, I think, with the direct fire version here, but still pretty cool. There's also a book, The Battle of Talarn, Part 1, which we'll get more information on in the future. That wraps up the Horus Heresy reveals. Next, we have Clan Eshin versus the Free Guilds. These will be 2 new spearheads, which will be in a single box on release, it looks like, for the spearhead mode. The City of Ash box, so that will be Free Guild versus Clan Eshin Skaven. Looks pretty good. You'll get the handbook. You'll get a City of Ash book for it as well. This will probably be very similar to the Fire and Jade. You get some Free Guild terrain, which actually looks quite nice. Looks a bit better than the almost more generic looking standard Sigmar human Sigmarine terrain, in my opinion. You, of course, get 2 mats, which look like they fold in the center based on that line, and some cards. The Skaven portion is Clan Eshin. This is a Death Master with a new sculpt, which looks fantastic. Also, an additional Death Master, which I believe is what they had in an Underworld teams, or a very similar sculpt from the Underworlds team. I'm not sure if that's the exact same. There's also 10 Gutter Runners, 10 Night Runners, and a pair of Bomb Rats. Larger view of Death Master Crickets. I'm probably butchering that. I don't know how you pronounce that, to be honest. Looks really cool, though. They're going with the nice poison dripping knives here. Looks very cool. A little larger than I would have expected for this kind of model, being it's supposed to be a sneaky model. The basing will make that not so easy, but it does look good. And then we have new gutter runners and night runners, which is good because those were some very old, very outdated models. And it's nice to see that they are getting updated. I was expecting them to, but there was always the chance that they didn't. You get your bomb rats there as well. I'm sorry, those were all gutter runners, and these are the night runners. Very nice expendable troops for Clan Eshin. Just very cool looking. Then for the free guilds, we get the Ranger Colonel Yorvin Creel with his hunting cat here. Looks pretty good. Small buckler sword, not terrible. A priest character, and then some free guild knights. Additional free guild units, and we'll look at those in a second. So the heavily armored ones are the free guild gallants, and then we have the free guild grenadiers, and we have our grenadiers here, which look really good. They're definitely making some nice additions to the free guilds line, and their paint scheme is from Anvilgard, if I've read this correctly. Yes, a native of fallen Anvilgard. So I'm presuming his troops are also from there, and that's part of the paint scheme. So those are what will be included in that City of Ash box. So we see up here. So some nice contents there if you are interested in the Spearhead game mode, or if that is your preferred way of playing. This might be something you're interested in. Or if you're interested in either of the Spearheads and can find somebody locally who wants to pick them up as well. There are also a few additional Age of Sigmar reveals. There are the cog forts for the Cities of Sigmar free guilds reinforcements, and these look really cool. I thought these were a terrain piece originally, but they're apparently a unit, and this is just the kind of thing you'd want to see from Age of Sigmar. It's not super generic fantasy, but it's also still relatively recognizable, as opposed to being incredibly esoteric, and it just looks cool. You get this walking tower just laden down with cannons. I don't collect the Cities of Sigmar army, but I'd be tempted to pick this model up just because of how much stuff is on it. You've got the legs, some extra armor, guns near the legs, turrets, there are balconies with turrets, and then a gigantic turret on top. Just looks fantastic. And you do have some options. So we have, this is probably the same gun, just at a different angle, but you have this other balcony here. A nice different paint scheme here as well, and you get a different main gun here on top, and we get some closer ups on these as well. So this is the uncovered top with the cannon, with your different munitions, a few grenadiers here in the background, another cannon here in the front, a sort of shotgun looking gun here, or maybe a Gatling gun, not entirely sure. Looks really cool. Again, that grenadier, extra people here, just really detailed model with plenty of stuff going on. A couple different angles of those things we just saw. Entry into it just looks really, really cool. Compared to a few other models, it's here as well. Looks like it'll tower over the battlefield. Just looks really cool. There's also Erasmus Zahn, the Enlightened One, who is a wizard of the White College. He is investigating Heesh, I believe. He has a strange heliomorph named Glyphwing that he found examining the wilds, and this is a two-headed chimera-esque creature. I will say I do like his helmet. That's pretty cool. It looks kind of like a lamp, to be honest. And then you have this thing in the front for the Winds of Magic with the Azir, I believe, meteor strands coming off of it. Looks very cool. There are also collegiate battle mages, the Akishan pyrocasters, and there are amethyst Nell mages. So these are your fire mage and your death mage, respectively, from your Warhammer Old World Fantasy Warhammer equivalents. Looks pretty good. I do not like this face. There's something off about it. I can't tell if it's the painting or the angle, or I just don't like it. But this doesn't look very good. The closed helmet looks a little almost too Elden Ring-esque in a way, but it still looks good as a model. Was much more likely to pick this up than the old world versions because the old world versions are resin. For me, that's definitely makes it a no. This one looks pretty good as well. Definitely very Fire Mage looking, so it works pretty well for that. Interested to see what this is supposed to be on the back of his hand here. There are also Gate Gargants, which looks to be a pair to take the center of the battle line, which have their turrets on the back there. So very interesting. Looks like they're posted in place with those chains. This sort of aesthetic isn't for me, but it does, like, I can see what they're going for. It just doesn't appeal to me, but if it does appeal to you, these will be available as well. And then we get to their actual terrain piece, which does remind me of the Ossiarch Bone Reaper's terrain piece, in that it's also a gigantic obelisk. Obviously, this is more good guy themed almost. You've got your armor on top, a nice pillar to hold it up with plenty of little candles. These, I imagine, will be text free. Like, I don't think this will be actually a part of the model. I think this will be room for you to do what you like on it. Although I could be wrong. Maybe some of this will be, just the little like text lines will be needed to be painted on. I do like that they've got that sort of also inverted triangle here at the bottom. Does look really cool with the little stalactites there, and it's kind of chained in place. I don't know how much work those chains are doing from a modeling perspective in terms of like holding this thing up, but I would imagine there's a third one in the back there. That looks kind of like they would have divided it in three. Extra little detail here on the base as well. Looks very good. Jorvin Creel we saw in the Cities of Ash box as well. And then Malice Forge Priest, who is also in that box. The Free Guild Gallants with some closer look. A very cool bird cat helmet here on one of them. I presume this is the Sergeant. Little guy here on the base for this one. That looks great. I like the little guys on these. A few of the more generic models for them, and then their bannermen, which may have a little toad creature with a hood, although that may not be correct. Just from this angle, it looks like a little toad creature with the hood. Very nice. I like the little guys. Those are great. Again, the Free Guild Grenadiers, also with their own little guy, it looks like. Some of these in melee poses with their sort of shotgun cannon there. And then a flamethrower posted gun here on their axe. And some additional ones there as well. And these will be available in the Cities of Ash first as well. They're getting a new battle tome as well for Cities of Sigmar. There's also, Cities is also getting a new spearhead, Zenestra Zealots. They'll get a Free Guild Marshal with Relic Envoy, a unit of 10 steel helms, and of course Pontifex Zenestra, and a Free Guild Command Corps. There's also a Regiment of Renown, Vendenst's Hounds. The two in the center, Galen and Doralia Vendenst, lead a team of Wildercore Hunters. The named characters remind me of the limited model, I believe that was for the Warhammer Plus subscription for Age of Sigmar. But it may just be the same aesthetic. Doesn't look too similar, but I also did not pick that one up, so I couldn't say for certain. We are almost done with all the Age of Sigmar reveals. The last one is for Warhammer Underworlds, a Lumineth Realm Lords warband with some nice new models. Of course, Lumineth Realm Lords themed, but they have toned down some of the helmets. And to be honest, this helmet looks much better than a few of the other ones they've shown previously, and the hoods just work really well as well. So you have your warband leader. This is a Wind Mage with some nice horns here on that helmet. But this works a lot better, I think, than some of the other helmets they have. And of course, you also get a horned fox as well, which looks really cool. You get an archer with a nice blindfold, nice couple little like ribbon sections coming off his armor, but just generally standard Lumineth aesthetic. And then you get two other sort of skirmisher type units, one with a spear, one with a bow, which will work pretty well. Their gimmick is that the Fox Spirit is placed at an empty hex at the start of each action step, and he can draw straight lines to the edges of the battlefield that don't pass through a blocked hex, then have a wind effect, and that affects each of your finders, with your Lumineth getting buffs and your enemies getting debuffs. I might wind up picking up this warband just for the models. Not entirely sure. We'll have to see in the future. Next, we have a kill team. The Red Terror hunts elites Cadians in a new kill team expansion. Obviously, Tyranids versus Guard. You get the Red Terror, a massive Tyranid monstrosity. Armor plates down to a snake-like tail covered in spines. Very cool looking, gigantic limbs. Just looks great. And got a couple different angles here as well. Looks like a hefty sized model with some nice basing there also. Looks like it will have an ability that lets it regenerate based on kills and to deep strike essentially and attack operatives, which is very cool. Then you also get a Cadian kill team with your standard human guys fighting the aliens. You've got a veteran sergeant with a really cool bionic arm, a gunner with a plasma rifle, sharpshooter sniper, stub gunner, so machine gun guy, a grenadier, field medic, heavy gunner with a nice rocket launcher, the loader for the rocket launcher, so I wonder how that will interact in the game. That'll be interesting. The Vox operator with a beacon token, and a guide and standard trooper. That is everything in there. You'll of course get some tokens. You'll get the mission booklet, some cards. There's also the Kill Team Nemesis operatives, which is create your own Nemesis operatives, which will be interesting. You can get some bigger allies to fight in some of these. They are also re-releasing the Blackstone Fortress standalone Ambul with little mini larvae, and the Zote, which is a very cool mini. These were available standalone for a little while, and then they disappeared, and they are back. The Ambul was obtainable in a boxed game, along with some of the heroes from Blackstone Fortress, but I don't believe the Zote was. And then, for our last preview, we have the Middle-earth strategy game updates, which we have our Middle-earth Riders of Rohan updated sculpts, which look very good. These are a slightly smaller model than the standard 40k models, and from what I've heard for the most recent Riders of Rohan army, which were foot troops and the hillmen, is that they have a few more pieces than they did previously, so I'd be interested to see the kit. The closest one I've done in terms of release time was the new Elrond, and he had a few pieces that were a little difficult, namely his face, which was a separate piece. But these look really good. The increase in quality is probably worth it. Just the extra model detail, the armor here with the bow, just looks really good. You get throwing axes. Very nice looking models. 6 different miniatures with a variety of weapons. 4 can be assembled with a hand weapon or throwing spear and have bows on their backs, and 2 will have their bows out. And they have 6 unique steeds, and you can mount any rider on any horse. So they are not keyed to specific horses, so you will get some very nice variety in a Warriors of Rohan across your army if you have multiples of this set, which is just always nice to have. There are also some commanders for the Warriors of Rohan, a banner bearer, and then 2 commanders, one with horn, one with axe. There are also commanders for the Hill Tribesmen. Again, one with banner, one with horn, and one with club instead of axe this time. And you are also able to use these new Hill commanders in the War of the Ring and Wild Men of Dunland army. There's also a book, The Burning of the Westfold, with the models, so you can redo some scenarios from Two Towers and Return of the King, which will be coming out as well. And that wraps up the Adepticon reveals. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Really enjoyed seeing some of this new stuff. Plenty of things here. Plenty of new models. Looks really cool. And of course, a lead into the 11th edition that is coming later this year. So let me know your comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.